One issue that popped from last time was I talked about existence, okay? And so there were some people who gave it their best shot on what they believe the word exist or existence means, okay? And the fellow says there, I take existence to be but a part of all things that have being. Well, being is a synonym of exist, so you can't use the word being if you're going to be defining the word exist. To exist is to have spatio-temporal properties. Okay, whatever that means. Okay. However, I would not want to reduce the whole of ontology to existence. Otherwise, we'll have severe problems dealing with semantics, for there is no semantics without ontology. Well, ontology, philosophical study of being, existence, as well as related concepts such as existence, becoming, and reality, all of which are synonyms of existence. So we don't know what ontology is other than existence, and we don't know what existence is. And semantics is meaning in language. Okay, so I'm not sure what this fellow said. Unless he says a little more, we don't understand what's going on through his head. And here's another fellow. He says an object exists if it interacts with another object. So the question is, here we have an asteroid just flying through space. Until it hits the moon, it doesn't exist. It has to interact with the moon for it to become not only an object, but for it to exist. So no, interaction does not define existence. Exist is a static concept. Interaction is a dynamic concept. Interact is a verb. Okay? A property exists if sentience can observe an object with that property. So in order for a property to exist, he's saying that a property exists, right? And again, he hasn't defined exist very well, because he says an object exists, but now he says a property exists. Now he's saying that a concept, an abstract concept exists. And he says in order for it to exist, it has to have an observer observe it. That means that, there were no properties in the universe before humans came around. Okay, that's what he's saying. Essentially, all those properties, like, Mars was red maybe, and the moon was round, and the sun was hot. All those properties only began to exist when humans came into existence. That's very hard to believe, that those properties weren't there before humans. And a concept exists if an object with sentience can define it. So again, we don't know what exist means, so we can't know what how he means that a concept exists. In what way does it exist? What does exist mean? So again, unless he defines the word exist for concepts in an objective manner, and he can't do that if he puts observers into the picture, then he doesn't have a definition. He can't defend his definition. And here we have still another guy. It says, exists, having objective reality. Well, reality is what? Synonym of existence. That's the first problem. But he says, such as energy. Energy is a concept. There's no physical object called energy, but you are welcome to draw it or show us a picture of it, point to a picture anywhere on the internet so we know what energy looks like. Okay, and until that happens, we cannot say that energy is an object. If it's not an object, according to the definition, physical presence, it cannot said to exist. Okay, so yeah, you can't use the word reality. That's a synonym that already destroys your definition. Okay, so let's compare. This fellow also had some other definitions, and he says this following. He says, object, a collection of matter. Location, position. And again, all he's using is synonym, because matter is, just a bunch of objects. That's what matter is. Location, position, you look it up, it's location. Space, a three-dimensional, what? Space is three-dimensional? I thought space had no dimensions whatsoever. Space is nothing. I thought nothing had no dimensions. So unless you can draw space and show us that it has three dimensions, only through a drawing or some kind of mock-up of some kind. You have to draw it or bring it to the conference room and show us this is space, and then we'll see the shape of it and say, yeah, you're right, that's three-dimensional. But until you can do that, you don't have three-dimensional. All you have is nothing, and nothing is zero-dimensional. Okay? Distance, a magnitude or size of displacement. Well, he's confusing distance with displacement. Displacement is the number of tiles. Distance is the separation between two objects. Okay, and so these are two different concepts. The one in physics is the one distance. Displacement is not used in physics. That's totally 100% a mathematical concept. Number of tiles, how many meters, how many inches, that kind of stuff does not concern physics at all. We have no need for that because physics is about explaining. You don't explain anything by saying how many feet or how many inches are from here to there. Okay? Motion, change, translation, rotation. Well, change is to make different from what it was before you did. You changed it. We left it alone. Okay, so yeah, change and motion are synonyms. That's not a definition. And time, a measure of the interval. You look up interval, an intervening period of time. So yeah, this fellow thinks that all they do is just copy what they see in the dictionary and Wikipedia or on the internet, and that's why they arrive at these definitions. But these definitions are just copied. He hasn't even attempted to defend it, to reason them out, to see if they make sense. He just said, well, that's how we did it always, and by tradition, and because everybody voted, democracy and authority, the fact that we have the people in at the universities who tell us to use these definitions. So he's going with democracy, authority, and what is it? And the fact that in democracy, whatever. The point is, you can't use those. Tradition was the other one. You can't use any of those as arguments. You have to defend the definition. Okay, and unless you can defend the definition, your definition is no good. That's simple. Okay, so here let's compare what this fellow said to ours. The first problem with what this fellow said is that he's got them in the wrong order. He starts with exist, then works with object, then location, then space, then distance, and eventually ends up with motion. That's not the way it's done in science, okay, especially in physics. The way it works is you have to have a certain order to these words. You have to define what an object, something, is first, okay? And then from there you have to work your way to distance, location, exist, motion, and concept, okay? That's the way it works in science. Now, this fellow says, exists having objective reality such as energy. Reality exists, so he's using a synonym. Object, an identifiable collection of matter. You look up matter, and it's many objects. That's what matter is. So again, that definition is circular. Okay? Location, position, a conceptual axis. Position is a place where something is located. So location and position are synonyms. And just in case, place is also a synonym of position. So all these are synonyms. You can't use synonyms to define. A synonym is a circular definition. Space is a three-dimensional continuum. What's a continuum? A continuous extent. A set of elements such that between any two of them there is a third element. What's an extent? The space to which a thing extends. Something extended as a space. So yeah, all he's done is run around in circles. Why? Because he doesn't look up these words. He doesn't understand that you can't use synonyms and you can't run around in circles. You got to look up each one of those words and find out what it means. And if continuum goes back to space, then you get a circular argument. Okay, so you can't use a word that already contains the word you're trying to define. Distance, the magnitude or size of displacement. Again, displacement is not distance. And motion, change, etc., and change is motion. Now, the way we define these things in science is seen on the right. Something, that which has shape. Nothing, that which doesn't have shape. That's what the synonym is space. Okay, so space is that which doesn't have shape, and object is that which does. Distance, separation between two objects. Location is the set of distances to all other objects. Exist, physical presence, meaning an object that has location, something with location. Motion, two or more locations of an object, right? and concept a word that invokes or embodies two objects or two words treated as objects. Okay? So unless you can challenge those definitions, not through authority, not through democracy, not through tradition, but through reasoning, then you don't have a case. Okay? Okay, and another fellow says, finally he says, what is matter? That's maybe number 3 after existence and thingness. No, as I just said, you have to go in that order. You have to go first with object. You can do space as well because it's an antonym of object. Then you go through distance, location, and then finally to existence, and motion. That's the direction in which you must do it in physics. That direction is mandatory. You cannot escape it. You cannot define location before you define object. You cannot define existence or motion before you define object or distance or location. Okay, so the order is very important. And matter is just objects that exist, many objects that exist. We refer to matter as all the atoms or objects, depending on you can choose your system, right? That exist, that have physical presence, that are objects that have location. So matter is just many objects that have location. Someone asked me about ChatGPT, not exactly about that, but he asked the question to the ChatGPT to see what kind of answer he got. And so he had a little debate, a little discussion with with a robot, okay? And it was about the word exist. Okay, and so he says the definition of exist as an object with location and physical presence is an objective definition. That's what the bot told him. Okay, so the bot liked it. At least they liked my definition. Okay, I guess the bot at least analyzed it to some point. But then the bot screwed itself when it went forward with more, and shows you why you got to be careful with all these chat GPTs and bots. It's worth noting, however, that the concept of existence can still be influenced by subjective factors such as human perception, interpretation, and language. Absolutely not. No, because when you make it subjective, you no longer have an objective definition, and that definition, physical presence goes down the drain. Okay, you cannot define it in such a way that you encompass subjectivity as well. Okay, and that's where the problem is. Either and again, we're doing it for physics, where we're going to be using it consistently, scientifically, rationally, and not what we have today in the dictionaries where, anything goes over there, especially synonyms. And then he gives an example, says different cultures and languages may have different definitions or understandings of what it means for something to exist based on their unique philosophical or scientific traditions. We clean our nose holes with all that. We don't care what any language on the planet says, and a lot of them just copy from other languages. We don't care. They have to rationalize the usage of the word exist. So it's not a question of saying, well, this guy has a different opinion on the word exist. If he does, no problem. Defend your definition. If you cannot defend it, it's easy to tear apart, then we throw it in the trash can. Just that simple. So the bot screwed it up. It should have stopped at the first line there and not continue. Okay, so what is this ChatGPT box, this R2D2 that has become famous lately, okay? And here's a little definition or explanation. It says ChatGPT is a versatile chatbot that mimics a human conversationalist. Chatbox or Chatterbox is a software application used to conduct an online chat conversation via text or text-to-speech in lieu of providing direct contact with what? With a live human agent. We're getting rid of humans from the workforce. We're replacing them with bots. Chatbots, and a lot of companies have them, unfortunately, are computer programs designed to convincingly simulate the way a human would behave as a conversational partner. They are capable of maintaining a conversation with a user in natural language, etc., etc. Okay, and it says, ChatGPT can write and debug computer programs, compose music, teleplays, fairy tales, and student essays, answer test questions, write poetry and song lyrics, emulate a Linux system, simulate an entire chat room, play games like tic-tac-toe, and simulate an ATM. And then at the end, this is all out of Wikipedia. In 2012, none of them could pass the standard Turing test. So it could pass the Turing test. Well, what in the world is a Turing test? Let's find out. Just so we zero in on this bot. Okay, here it is. Turing test is a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human. A human evaluator would judge natural language conversations between a human and a machine designed to generate human-like responses. The evaluator would be aware that one of the two partners in conversation was a machine. If the evaluator could not reliably tell the machine from the human, the machine would be said to have passed the test. Okay, so you have this evaluator, this interrogator. He's isolated from the two entities that will be answering questions, and he knows one of them is a robot, but if he can't tell the difference between them, then that means that the bot passed the Turing test. Okay, so that's the criteria, okay, for determining, whether a bot is intelligent or not. But we have an article that came out, and I'll just synthesize it here. It says, Google's AI passed a famous test and showed how the test is broken. The Turing test has long been a benchmark for machine intelligence, but what it really measures is deception. It doesn't measure intelligence, it measures deception. And goes in there and says, look, these tests aren't really getting at intelligence. What it's getting at is the capacity of a given software program to pass as human, at least under certain conditions. It's an advance towards fooling people that you have intelligence. We don't need to worry about Lambda turning into Skynet, etc., machine mind from the Terminator, right? The AI sector has largely moved on with using the Turing test as an explicit benchmark. The designers of large language models now aim for high scores on tests. The Turing test's most troubling legacy is an ethical one. The test is fundamentally about deception. The Turing test should serve as an ethical red flag. Any system capable of passing it carries the danger of deceiving people. In other words, the point of the Turing test was allegedly to put like a benchmark, like if you pass this test, well, you show that you have lots of intelligence. And what it actually shows is that the bot is able to fool people because it even makes sounds like coughing and so on. And whoever listens to that says, well, is that a bot or is that a human? Because all that's programmed in there. Okay, and so the question is, does that show intelligence or does that show deception? And the argument there was it doesn't show intelligence. Will a bot of any kind in the future ever have the ability to think like a human? It's difficult to believe that it will reach that level. Okay, they can mimic a lot of things, and obviously they're getting more sophisticated as time goes by. The question is, will they ever become human? And my answer to that is there's not enough time to reach that milestone. Humanity will disappear way before that time.